Alright, this is Black Star issue 19. Not to be confused with Black Nova, which this character was also briefly known as in development. Black Star was the one I went with. This is issue 19, and it is the first appearance of a Marvel villain called Blackout. That is him on the cover, imprisoning Black Star in... Well, that is one of the quirks of this issue. This has been heavily retconned. This entire issue was retconned intensely. Our writer is Mark Wolfenstein, with art by Carmine Falcone. I cannot seem to escape his Marvel works. This issue wastes no time at all, and we are in with the hero facing the bad guy by the second page. So Blackout is debuting here. I will be explaining all the things you will recognise Blackout from, but his original powers, what this issue presents as his powers, are all light-based. He controls black light energies from an eternally collapsing star. And what we see on the cover is him encasing Black Star in solid light matter. Now here's the thing, this is babble. These ideas are not based on any coherent scientific knowledge. They are based on scientific words, or maybe scientific sounding ideas. The writer, Mark Wolfenstein, seems especially vulnerable to misinformation, pseudoscience, lies, and confidence tricks. Blackout's original powers, as shown in this issue, are completely fine for what they are. They make no sense to a reader, but presumably to Mark Wolfenstein they make sense. And that is the big problem. We are not Mark Wolfenstein. To everyone else, this is confusing language and cobbled together quasi-theoretical terms. Mark Wolfenstein never writes the Blackout character again. But maybe the nicest thing to say about this is that the retcon makes Blackout's powers and this issue make more sense. Here, Blackout is going after his former employer for revenge. And this too is retconned. So I should get to that stuff. Royce Sternum brings Blackout back, initially in a few issues of the Avengers. But then much later on, Blackout is a key player in the Under Siege storyline. Many years later, he is also in New Thunderballs, or rather his Puppeted Corpses, which was my introduction to the character, and why I got this issue, because I didn't understand what the deal with him was, and after this, I still didn't. I wasn't aware of the heavy retconning in the character's second appearance. In a way, this issue is worthless. His powers are nonsensical and infinite. He can do whatever he needs to do whenever. I hope you don't mind that I'm not even going to point out the cameo by a DC character, because Blackout's origin and his revenge is more important to talk about. In this issue, Blackout is a victim. He was blackmailed into being a guinea pig in an experiment by a very evil and unethical scientist who was trying to harness the powers of a gravitational singularity. The result was Blackout got his incredibly fantastical powers, and now he wants revenge on the scientist. And this is very clearly rewritten shit, where Blackout was killing him, but now he's been merged with the colour spectrum. Yeah, it's complete gibberish all around. Here is the origin being told. And why the retcon works is that this is being told from Blackout's perspective. The entire issue even, everything we are told about him or his powers comes from Blackout himself, or our main hero, reiterating or embellishing on what Blackout has already suggested. The retcon is that Blackout is a bit of a raving loony. His understanding of his own powers is absolute fantasy. It has naught to do with black light or black holes. Even Elektra knows it. He is instead empowered by the Dark Force dimension, the source of many other shadow energy powered heroes at Marvel, like Blind Batman or Coke from Coke and Pepsi. Or is it Pepsi? I can't remember which one is Coke and which one is Pepsi. Blackout's origin wasn't that he was a guinea pig to an unfair and evil experiment, but that he was the criminal. He was a lab assistant who was hired by a pretty understanding and forgiving scientist who was trying to research and harness energies from other dimensions. But Blackout was power hungry and felt the world was against them, and he wanted revenge on everyone. And so the first chance he got, he exposed himself to Summit to try and get powers. A lot of retcons are shit, but I like this. Blackout is a conduit, his body is a conduit for the Dark Force dimension, the Dark Force energy. The retcon works because it is both fixing Summit, the pseudo-jargon ramblings of this issue, and then its contradictions are framed as part of the story. Part of the character, rather. This wouldn't work if we had all these scenes actually play out. But what we are told, and what we are seeing, is a flashback from Blackout's mind. And Blackout has a warped sense of reality. I think it is time for my fan fiction. Are you ready for this? This is cringy as fuck and you will hate it. My theory, my idea is that Blackout is autistic. Blackout has autism. Yes, he does have brown hair just like me, but this isn't an attempt to self-insert or even force representation in the comics, because actually Blackout is terrible representation. Who wants to be represented by a low-tier obsessive villain? I think Blackout, having autism, works with everything we have been told, and much like the retcons to this issue, it only strengthens what we already have. Blackout's social problems with his boss and his co-workers, and his twisted view of what happened, and everyone being out to get him, that could easily be ascribed, or part of it, to autism, his interests or obsession with black light and black holes and crap like that. Again, autism, possibly Asperger's. He has no interest in Dark Force or Dark Force energy or the Dark Force dimension. But he read a book, a surely discredited book, about black holes and white holes and white stars. And that is why he is convinced, why he believes, and why he wants his powers to be derived from the thing he has interest in. Then there is Moonstump. He has a weird relationship with Moonstump. I won't talk about Moonstump and her manipulations of him, but to look at Blackout, he is almost dependent on Moonstump. These are all very broad and nearly stereotypical ideas of what autism is, but his immediate acceptance and affection for Moonstump that resonates with me. I mean, have you heard me talk about January Jones before? It's the exact same fucking thing. What do you reckon? Is it embarrassing Twitter fanning, or does it further add to Blackout's hyperfixations, his misunderstandings of scenarios, and his all-around weird character arc? We have letters here. There's no letters from Brie Larson's granddad. That's weird. I thought he was the biggest fan of Black Star ever. I thought he would have written in every month. He is meant to be the world's biggest fan of Black Star ever. Why isn't he writing in every month? All we have left is a so far unexplained aspect of Blackout's original powers. He causes a storm, and Royce Sternum doesn't acknowledge this or explain this in the retcon, and so I like the idea that this weather is only a coincidence. I love the idea that he thinks that he caused this, but it was forecast for rain that morning. We have our hero battle Blackout again, and honestly, there's not much here. The best thing about this issue is seeing how well it does work with the retcons. There's very, very few contradictions. The idea that he is causing the lightning storm is one of the few. And the other is his defeat. He ends up being dispersed by the lightning. Easy enough to just go with the retcon and say he was rather being pulled into the Dark Force dimension. Actually, in Avengers, it's confusing. They say they treat it like he was trapped inside the stabilizer he was using. But I suppose further clarification would be that he was hiding in a pocket of dark force that happened to be inside the stabilizer. That seems the sort of thing they would say in a handy book. Cannot really recommend this. It's an interesting read to observe a good retcon, but by itself it is dysfunctional. Blackout would have been left behind without someone smoothing over his first appearance the way they did. I don't think any other writer could approach this character with his original setup and understand what the extent of his power was. Then, his character in this is trite. Mark Wolfenstein wants him to be both a victim when it is convenient and then a murderer when he needs him to be a bad guy. It is bad villain writing. It is pulling a victim card to try and make him seem like a character instead of a generic bad guy with incomprehensible powers. I like Blackout, but I don't like this Blackout. I give it 7 thumbs up.